mabuhay. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Maria Kathleen Andy Siriaco from Group 1, Freud's Psychoanalytic Theory. Sigmund Freud was the founding father of psychoanalysis, which is a method for treating mental illness and also a theory which explains human behavior. Freud's psychoanalytic theory of personality argues that human behavior is the result of the interactions among three component part of the mind, which is the ID, ego, and superego. He believed that events in our childhood have a great influence on our adult lives, shaping our personality. Just like, for example, the anxiety originating from traumatic experiences or experience in a person's past is hidden from his or her consciousness and may cause problem during adulthood or adult lives niya. And he further believed that everything you do is motivated by inner unconscious forces. We are driven by the libido or sexual energy. When we say libido, it is a term that is commonly used to describe sexual drive or a desire for sexual activity. He further believed that personality is formed in the 6 years of life. Aggression and libido are tied together. When we say aggression, it is a violent behavior or attitudes towards another. And just like what I've said before, that libido is described as a sexual drive or a desire for sexual activity. He further believed that fixation is an unresolved conflicts caused by frustration.
Good day, I am Tiffany Macy Dalan from Bachelor of Physical Education 2C. So let's talk about Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud is famous for inventing and developing the technique of psychoanalysis for articulating the psychoanalytic theory of motivation, mental illness, and the structure of subconscious. Sigmund Freud was a neurologist and the founder of psychoanalysis, a clinical method for treating psychopathology through dialogue between a patient and a psychoanalyst. Sigmund Freud, born on May 6, 1856 at Prebor, Czechia. He died on September 23, 1939 at Hampstead, London, United Kingdom. Sigmund Freud's wife name is Martha Bernays, married last 1886 to 1939. Sigmund Freud has 6 children, namely Anna Freud, Ernest Freud, Sophie Freud, Oliver Freud, Mathilde Freud, Martin Freud, and Martin Freud. His parents' name is Amalia Freud and Jacob Freud. Sigmund Freud was an Australian neurologist who is perhaps most known as the founder of psychoanalysis. Freud developed a set of therapeutic techniques centered on talk therapy that involve the use of strategies such as transference, free association, and dream interpretation.
Good day, I am Kathleen Joy Lavella Hinobla from BP Ed 2C. So, today we're going to talk about amplification of psychoanalytic theory to education. This topic is by Sigmund Freud, the psychoanalytic theory. Now, at first glance, I am struggling to see how his ideas can link to education. However, if you analyze his work more deeply, some of his theories may be the use of to explain parts of what is going on in education and in classroom. So there are 3 concepts in psychoanalytic theory, which are the 3 agents are theoretical constructions that describe the activities and interactions of the mental life of a person. So you could argue that students revert to the ID when they need to lean off steam. So ID, by which means primitive and instinctual part of mind that contains sexual and aggressive drives and hidden memories. and this is when they disruptive. Then similarly, there may be links also to the superego, by which means as moral conscience, as one of the goals of education is to promote better morals and standards in the individual. So there are also ego by which means is the realistic part that mediates between the desire of the ID and superego. When Sigmund Freud outlined this theory, conscious and unconscious mind, was it probably cutting-edge stuff. But this idea has largely been suppressed by theories such as Johari window, which moves Freud's ideas also. Here is the Johari window. Johari window refers to a technique that used to help people in better understanding of themselves and others. It represents a feedback model used in self-help groups and corporate environment to improve individual and the performance. So open, known to self and to others. Then there is blind, not known to self but known to others. Then the 3 is hidden, known to self but not to others. And lastly, unknown, but not known to self or others. So amplification of psychoanalytic theory education. Through primarily of historical interest, an understanding of Freudian theory may give classroom teachers insights into the importance of unconscious feeling and drives that motivate some student behavior. Learn about your students' experiences, preconceptions, or misconceptions by using pre-test, background knowledge, probes, and written or oral activities designed to reveal students' thinking about the topic. And also, organizing information into a conceptual framework helps students remember and use knowledge. Students must learn functional information, understand these facts and ideas in the context of a conceptual framework, and organize knowledge in ways that they can facilitate retrieval and application in order to develop competence in a new topic. So that said, it is important that teacher consider the notion that individuals have conscious and unconsciousness, that parts of themselves. So for instance, if you were discussing a controversial subject such as sexual abuse, and you are not aware of that student in the group who have been victims of such crimes, you might induce in those students to that they are trying to forget that scenario in their lives that it's not good. So model your thinking when you solve an issue, construct an argument, or examine written work in front of the class to help students become more metacognitive aware. Teach metacognitive methods such as goal setting, prediction, and consistency checking. Also, encourage students to write in a learning journal or generate explanations for their problem solving processes to draw attention to metacognitive. Second is, support students by using concept maps, flow charts, outlines, comparison tables to make the structure of the knowledge clear. Students learn with greater understanding when they share ideas through conversation, debate, and negotiation. So that's it.
So next up, we'll be tackling about the 5 stages of psychosexual development according to the famous psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud. According to him, children go through a series of psychosexual stages that lead to the development of the adult personality. This theory described how personality developed over the course of the childhood. So now let's have the first stage, which is the oral stage that happens during birth to 1 year. During the oral stage, the infant's primary source of interaction occurs through the mouth. The mouth is vital for eating, and the infant derives pleasure from oral stimulation through gratifying activities such as tasting, sucking, biting, or eating. The primary conflict at this stage is the weaning process. The child must become less dependent upon caretakers. The second stage will be the anal stage that happens during 1 to 3 years old. During the anal stage, Freud believed that the primary focus of the libido was on the controlling bladder and bowel movements. The major conflict at this stage is the toilet training. The child has to learn to control their bodily needs. Developing this control leads to a sense of accomplishment and independence. The third stage will be the phallic stage that happens during 3 to 6 years old. At this stage, children also begin to discover the differences between males and females. The child begins to identify with the same-sex parent as a means of vicariously possessing the other parent. The fourth stage will be the latency stage that happens to 6 to puberty. During this stage, the superego continues to develop while the id's energies are suppressed. Children develop social skills, values, and relationships with peers and adults outside of the family. The last one will be the genital stage that happens during puberty onwards. During the final stage of psychosexual development, the individual develops a strong sexual interest in the opposite sex. At this stage, teens are able to balance their most basic urges against the need to conform to the demands of reality and social norms.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am Dali S. Cañete and we will continue the discussions of Freud's psychoanalytic theory. So again, psychoanalytic theory is the theory of personality organization and the dynamics of personality development that guides psychoanalysis, a clinical method for treating psychopathology. So what are the focuses of psychoanalytic theory? It is the unconscious mind and as well as the early childhood experience. So why does the unconscious mind was the focus of psychoanalytic theory? It is because unconscious mind governs behavior to a greater degree than a people suspect. And why does an early childhood experience too? It is because our events in our childhood have a great influence on our adult lives, shaping our personality. Personality is shaped as the drives are modified by different conflicts at different times in a childhood. So next, what are the main ideas of psychoanalytic theory? Freud developed that psychoanalytic theory of personality development will be the one to argue that personality is formed through conflicts among three fundamental structures of human mind: the ID, the ego, and the superego. So next is psychoanalytical theory. The goal of a psychoanalytical theory, analytic theory. Psychoanalysis was founded by Sigmund Freud. Freud believed that people could be cured by making conscious their unconscious thoughts and motivations, thus gaining insights. So the aim of psychoanalysis therapy is to release repressed emotions and experiences, make the unconscious conscious. Psychoanalysis is commonly used to treat depression and anxiety disorders. It is only by having a cathartic or healing experience can a person be helped, and cured. Thank you.
Hi, I'm this Jadu Emidol Jr. We'll talk about psychoanalytic theory. Psychoanalytic theory. For this topic, the question is, psychoanalytic theory is still used today. What is psychoanalytic theory? So, psychoanalytic theory is the theory of personality, organization, and the dynamics of personality development that guides psychoanalysis, a clinical method for treating psychopathology. Okay. First laid out by Sigmund Freud. In the late 19th century, psychoanalytic theory has undergone many refinements since his work. How used today? Freud's mark on psychology is still felt today. We use today. Talk therapy is most often associated with psychoanalysis, but therapists also use the technique in other approach to treatment, including client-centered therapy or any group therapy. Freud's theory, or this is the K theories, which we call K theories. So Sigmund Freud's theories is very important nowadays. Its work help shape of views of child personality, memory, sexuality, and therapy. So other major thinkers have contributed work that grew out of Freud's legacy. So while others developed new theories in opposition to this to his idea.
Freud's theory of psychosexual development claims that as we grow up, we pass through 5 critical phases. Our sex drive, which Freud called the libido, focuses in different erogenous zones at each phase. The phases are called oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital. Failing to successfully complete a stage, Freud suggested would cause that person to remain essential stuck. In other words, they would become fixated at a point in development. Freud also believed that fixations could result in particular stage left dominant impression on individual's personality. Freud theorized that fixation caused people to focus on energies that create pleasure at the earlier stage of psychosocial development. Freud stated that if someone couldn't get through an oral stage with a resolution, they would become fixated in the oral stage. The fixation creates the present need for oral stimulation, causing negative oral behaviors would cause them to continue to seek oral pleasures such as biting their nails, chewing gums, and drinking excessively. Second, the anal stage. Children gain a sense of satisfaction after being able to control their bladder and bowel movements successfully. The trauma they felt may have caused them to be overly obsessed with being tidy and orderly. On the other hand, people who are anal expulsive may have a potty training experience that were lax, which turns them into adults who are messy and disorganized. The phallic stage, wherein infant libido or desire centers upon the genitalia and erogenous zone. The child becomes our anatomically sex differences, which sets emotions to the conflict between erotic attraction, resentment, rivalry, jealousy, and fear, which Freud called the Oedipus complex in boys and Electra complex in girls. Latency stage is the 4th stage, spanning the period of 6 years to puberty. Freud thought that most sexual impulses are repressed during the latent stage, and sexual energy can be sublimated towards school, work, hobbies, and friendships. Much of the children's energy is channeled into developing new skills and acquiring new knowledge, and play becomes largely confined to the other children of the same gender. 5. The genital stage. It is time of the adolescent sexual experimentation, the successful resolution of which is settling down in a loving one-to-one relationship with another person in our 20s. Sexual instinct is directed to heterosexual pleasure rather than self-pleasure like during the phallic stage.